Hi, my name is Jacob Laval. I played Austin in The Unbreakable Boy, and this is Young Entertainment. And I'm so excited to be calling you.
So excited to be talking to you too, Jacob. Thanks for taking the time. So here at Young Entertainment, we're all about like masterclass moments. A lot of our audience is young people looking to break into the entertainment industry. So that's kind of the lens at which we, ask and talk about the questions. So to kick it off, I just want to know, what was the audition process for The Unbreakable Boy?
So the audition process was I remember a couple days before I filmed, they sent me the sides and it had I think 8 to 9 pages. And I had my acting coach come over and we went through the lines a lot together. And there was a lot of lines, so we went by it bit by bit. And we thought a lot about how the character would act in those situations given what we had read through. And then after that, we filmed the audition. We just decided, since Austin was a fun character, to have a lot of fun with it. And we had a lot of fun filming it. And then, I think a couple weeks later, a very, very soon later,
Yeah.
we got I forget, I guess a couple days or maybe even a day, we got a message hey, we're really interested in you. And they got me onto a director's call. They had me with the director, John Gunn, great guy, and Zachary Levi, he plays my dad. And I had a great time with him. And we just all got to know each other. We spoke, that was our first time meeting. And I went through the lines with them again, and they said they would get back to me. And then eventually, I think at that point, my memory starts to get a bit jumbled here.
No worries.
Eventually they kept us updated throughout the whole thing, and they said, okay, we're going to talk to Kingdom now. And then eventually they said, yeah, you're good to go. And they got us the plane tickets, and we went out.
That's so cool. And do you remember that exact moment when you got that call saying you booked the role? What was that experience like? Who were you with? What was that initial reaction?
So actually for that one, there wasn't one singular moment, I'd say. What happened with that one is that they told us very quickly, yeah, we think you're good, but we're still not quite sure. We have to get everything approved with Kingdom. And so I got excited there, but also I was oh, I'm not sure yet. So eventually, when I got told, yeah, you're good to go, I was already excited. And so for me, mostly that moment was more relief, okay, good, we got this. We
Yeah.
got this locked down, you know?
Oh, well, that's super cool. And yeah, again, congrats on booking the role. I think you were perfect for it. And yeah, so I know you mentioned, you had a lot of lines for this role playing Austin. Do you
Yeah.
have any tips and tricks, or what have you typically done to, memorize and remember lines?
Hmm. This is a tough one. It's a good question. Um, for me, honestly, a lot of the time the lines come more natural to me.
Yeah.
But one thing I'd say for memorizing the lines is don't focus as much on the lines themselves and focus more on the intentions behind the lines. And then if you focus more on that, the lines tend to come to you more.
Yeah.
Also, take it bit by bit. You definitely don't want to get a really big paragraph and just go through the entire thing. So you want to break it up bit by bit and go through one section and look at the intentions behind that and read through that a couple times, and then eventually move on to the next one, and eventually you can put that all together.
Oh, that's so cool. I don't think when I've asked this question, I don't think anyone has said, the more so the intentions rather than the words. So, but that makes so much sense. That's so cool. And yeah, a lot of our young audience will probably love that answer too. So
Yeah,
thank
definitely. The lines can be very intimidating.
Yeah.
That one was especially intimidating because I had multiple paragraphs or monologues, but yeah, you have to focus on less on the lines themselves and the intentions,
Yeah.
and then it'll come to you more.
Very cool. Awesome. So yeah, and kind of now I want to just fast forward a little bit. You booked the role of Austin. First day on set, what was that experience like? And what were those emotions just, being on set for that first time?
First day on set, it was the first day on set that I did was the milkshake scene. I
Uh-huh.
remember that. So it was a nice little warm up, you know. But I had a lot of fun doing it. At that point, I was excited to just get to meet everyone and get to know what the environment on the set was going to be like, which it was definitely great, and I had a good time. And then leaving that day, I was like, okay, I'm really excited to come back and be doing this for the next like month and a half.
Oh, for sure. And that milk, I feel like that milkshake scene was like the perfect thing to kind of get you like loose and like excited. Like that was probably the
Yeah,
perfect scene to
definitely.
film. Yeah. And I know you mentioned you met Zachary on a call when you like during the audition process. Was that first day when you met him like in person? And did you meet Meghann that day as well? And what was that like first meeting like?
I think I might, I'm not sure. I think that was the first time I met Zach
Okay.
because he was busy with other stuff. I think with Megan, I think the first time I met Megan was I was in the hotel walking back, and then I remember we got stopped, and it was Megan, and she was like, "Oh, you're playing Austin, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, it's great to meet you. I'm playing your mom." And I
Mhm.
was like, "Okay, it's great to meet you." And that's when we first met.
Yeah, very cool. And what just then through the entire experience, what was it like working with them, especially having them play your parents? I think that's such an iconic duo to, to be
Um,
together. So what was that like?
Yeah, definitely. They were all really kind and really friendly to work with. Gavin Warren, he played my brother. I definitely spent the most time with him. We'd go over to each other's rooms and play Mario Kart and all that. We had a
Oh,
great time. Um, and then Megan, we had a good time too. We went around to different places with me, and then I think Gavin Warren went along too. Me, him, and then Megan, and then my mom came along, of course. But
nice.
we spent time just going around. We went to like an antique store, I think, at one point, which was new and fun.
Yeah.
Um, Zach, we didn't really see him much offset because obviously he had a lot to worry about, but he
Mhm.
was great to be with on set. He was always looking out for us and being kind to us. He was great to work with.
Oh, fun. And did you ever pick up or did you ever talk to them about, acting in general? Did you ever pick up any acting tips from them or just like life experience, lessons?
Um, Not really. Now looking back, I kind of regret not looking for that. Now that you
No
mention
worries.
it.
Just I feel like just working with them was like that experience enough. Like you probably learned so much just from, being around them. So
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
yeah. Yeah. And so you had so many, fun scenes to film, so many like powerful scenes to film. Looking back on it, were there any favorite, funny moments offset or behind the scenes moments that like you wanna anything that you can share with us, just that like you can remember and look back on?
Hmm. I'm trying to think. What do I remember? Um, I remember, let me think. I remember there was one time where it was the scene where I was on the swings. It was crazy for that scene. That was really tough to film for me. It didn't look that hard, but it
Mhm.
was actually difficult because I was not feeling well that day.
Oh.
And I had a big headache because I was overheated the day before I had done the scene in the mascot costume, but
Mhm.
I eventually threw up because it was that bad.
Being on the swing and being
Um,
on the swings when you're not feeling well is like a recipe for disaster, I feel like.
Thankfully, they didn't need me until after I threw up, and so I
Okay,
was
good.
good there. Yeah, I really lucked out, but it was really fun. Well, it wasn't fun, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's funny to look back on.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of, I mean, obviously you probably had days where you didn't feel your best, or were there any other challenges on set, on this set especially? And if so, how did you overcome any of those?
Um, Let me think. Well, it was difficult. The movie was filmed during COVID, so
Okay,
like
oh,
there were
really?
a lot of we had to
Precautions?
yeah, we had to follow like the COVID procedures and all that. And so they would test us every once in a while, and we were always wearing masks too, which was
Yeah.
necessary, but it made it tough to socialize, definitely.
Oh,
Um, and then also, like, it was crazy the day before we were set to start filming, we got a call, right? And they said, you tested positive for COVID. And I was like,
no.
that doesn't make any sense. I have no symptoms. And so they had to drive me to like they drove me to like a lab area in the city. They drove me to a lab area in Oklahoma City, and they gave me like two COVID tests, and then they both came out negative.
Oh,
And then they
good.
gave me a
Good.
third, and that came out negative. But it was annoying because it pushed everything back. So you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And speaking of that, like I know you mentioned Oklahoma City, which is where you guys like. I know you probably had to live there for a number of months. Just what was that experience like going from kind of like living in New York and doing your thing with your family, and then having to, uproot for your life for a few months over there?
Well, it was definitely Oklahoma was definitely different. It
Yeah,
wasn't too bad with school because I was doing all remote, and so it was easy. You just pick up the computer. We don't have to leave school or anything.
yeah.
Although it was difficult having to sometimes wake up an hour earlier to do it because they're doing it. School for them started at like 9. I think our school is 9 a.m. start time, so for us that was 8. 8
Yeah,
is the
time difference.
default, but for me, I'm so used to being privileged and waking up at 9. Now I have to
Yeah.
wake up at 8.
So you just had to like roll out of bed and like turn on your computer and start there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But Oklahoma was definitely a great place to live. It's much different from New York,
very
obviously,
different.
but the people there were very friendly. Um, I remember that we just enjoyed going around and seeing all the different places.
Definitely.
Um, I remember the one of the first days we were there, like we drove around and we found like a big Walmart, and that was really fun to see, like a big super Walmart. Up here in New
Yep.
York, we don't even have regular Walmarts.
Yep, yep. Everything I feel like is like supersized, like in the Midwest or the South. Did you have any other like favorite, places that you got to visit or like landmarks or any of that?
Yeah, so the first one there was one day where I think it's the scene where we're at Zachary's or technically Scott's
Uh-huh.
new house after the New Year's incident, and they drove us out to a big ranch. Like we drove an hour out to this really beautiful ranch, and we had a great time filming there. And it's a much different experience from New York, obviously, because we have all the big skyscrapers and
Yeah,
everywhere. But we drove out into this big huge ranch that I think is private, so it was fun to see, like
yeah,
all decorated. But there's like it's extremely spaced out for like miles, it seems. There's like windmills everywhere. I've never
yeah.
seen a windmill in my life in New York.
Never. Yeah, I mean, I also live in New York and I've never visited like Oklahoma before or any of those kind of states, but I feel like it'd be like a massive difference because it's everything that's so spaced out, like a lot of greenery and yeah, we don't have that here in the city. So
Yeah,
that's very
definitely.
different, but God, you got to experience that.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, speaking of, I know you mentioned school, and obviously, that you had to manage multiple responsibilities on set from, memorizing your lines, being on set, and then doing school. So you probably didn't have a lot of downtime. But how did you like manage kind of both of those responsibilities, while shooting?
Um, it was difficult at times. Thankfully, it wasn't too difficult. Our school didn't really have much homework. And then when you're on set, like, you can do tutoring.
Yep.
So you don't always have to go on to the Zoom thing because if you were on set, then they just make you do 3 hours of tutoring, which
Yep.
is a lot easier than 6 hours of Zoom. Um, so thankfully, it wasn't that bad. I kind of lucked out with all that.
Yeah, very cool. And another question that we always love to ask, the actors we talk to is I feel like a lot of actors they like to listen to music to kind of get into the headspace of their character or
Yeah.
like to prep for their character. Are you a music guy? Did you like to listen to any specific playlist for Austin or just alternatively, how did you prep to play him?
Um, I never really had an Austin playlist or anything like that. Um, for prepping to play Austin, it was more of just like going through the lines themselves and going through like a deep dive of like how you think the character will react. And I also got to meet the real Austin LeRette, which was really helpful.
Wow. Yeah,
Um,
what was that experience like?
it was great meeting Austin. He really is the same person you see in the movie. He's all
Yeah.
happy and positive. Especially on set, he was like so excited to meet us all, and so we
Oh,
really had a
that's
good
so
time.
awesome.
Yeah, like me and Gavin and Austin, like we'd all go up to each other's hotel rooms and just play for like hours if we weren't filming that day.
That is so cool. And were you able to like ask him questions too about like kind of, to prep for the role?
Um, well, I'd say I didn't really ask that many questions because I was distracted having fun, but I paid attention
Sure.
and like I knew like okay, this is how he behaves, so I have to like make sure to go based off of this.
Definitely. Oh, that's so cool. I'm so glad you got those types of movies where you get to like meet the people that you're working with and get to play. I think is so special and so cool. So, glad
Definitely.
that.
It's really important, I think, if the movie's based off of a true story to involve the people who like are who experience the real thing. And so it's great that they had like that much influence. They got to come down to the set like twice and check
Oh,
everything out.
oh, nice. Very cool. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. And yeah, just a couple more fun questions for you. So we always also love to ask this question. Did you personally have a favorite snack at Crafty, and what was it?
Ooh, hmm. I don't. That was 5 years ago. I'm forgetting. Um,
Oh, true, true, true.
my favorites were probably the Doritos because those are my current favorites. Those have always been my favorites. Like if I see any of those, that's the first one I'm picking out.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good choice. I'd probably go the same way. So good
Yeah,
answer.
definitely.
And yeah, we also wanted to ask about your experience on Sesame Street, which we saw you were in, which is amazing. Just what was that experience like? And do you have a favorite Sesame Street character that you liked?
Hmm. That okay, so Sesame Street was really fun. I remember that was filmed, that was like the final thing I did before COVID hit. And I
Mhm.
remember like I did the audition, they brought me out, and like it was very surreal to be there because like you always see it like on TV. Like every kid has watched Sesame Street, but you never
Yeah.
think you're actually gonna wind up there.
Mhm.
Um, but it was great. They were all very like accommodating and friendly to us, even though we only have like one scene in the thing. They still went through like great lengths to make sure that we were happy there. And then I remember the actors were very friendly to us too. I got a picture with the actress who plays Abby Kadabi with
Oh,
her
that's
and the
so
puppet. She still follows me on Instagram, which
oh,
is really nice.
amazing. And
Yeah.
do you have a favorite character?
My favorite was actually Cookie Monster.
Oh,
I was disappointed I didn't get to meet him, but I got to meet Elmo and Abby Kadabi, which is still really good.
oh, that's so cool. And that she follows you on, so she's a fan of you too, which is so cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. And then just two more questions for you. Switching back to the Unbreakable Boy. So I know you mentioned some of the funny moments that you had offset. Were there any like, special moments, whether it be the last day of filming or just, working with the cast members? Did you have any special moments that you'll kind of just look back on in like 10 years and like remember forever? Or just what was the most special part of this experience?
That is a good question. I'd say, hmm, I'd say the most special parts were probably the scenes that we filmed where we were all together because that was like our highest point as a community. Like we really had a great time all with each other. Like the scene where we're in the car, the final scene where we're in the car, that was a really good one. And then also, um, there was one character I remember, you know, the bully character Tyler?
Hmm.
Yeah, the kid who plays him, Pilot, he was only down at set with us for 3 days, but that
Okay.
was really special because we all really had a great time with him, and so we made sure to enjoy like the 3 days we did have with him. But he was really friendly. He's actually filming, I forget what it's called, but he's filming something up here in New York right now,
Oh,
and
fun.
I got to meet up with him, and we were super excited to see each other.
Yeah. No, that's so special. And I feel like this movie especially it's so cool because you had people like your own age you could, spend time with and now like those relationships will last, a lifetime.
Yeah, definitely. I needed that because I was all remote for school, and so
Yeah.
I would have had no social interaction, you know?
Oh, well, that's so special. I'm glad you guys got to do that. And yeah, I guess just the final question that I had. So, love the movie and especially, based on a true story, I think it's so incredibly powerful. And so for the movie's going to come out very soon, which is so exciting for those who, are interested in seeing it or don't know too much about the story, but are, want to see it, what do you think or what do you want people to take away from, watching The Unbreakable Boy?
Hmm. I hope viewers take away the message that I feel like the movie carries about like getting through struggles. Like every character in the movie has some sort of struggles, but in the end they all come together and find ways to move past it. And I hope that the audience takes away that like idea of like resilience and acceptance for each other. Like it's really important to have that those values, and oftentimes it's easy to just give up or start blaming people for their problems. But I hope I hope the audience takes that away.
Yeah. And just, I guess one more, what was just your favorite part about playing Austin's character?
Good question. My my favorite part about playing the character Austin is probably like the energy he carries with him, I'd say, because he really made everyone he was with on set really always happy and positive, and I feel like that's something everyone should aspire to be. And so I'd say that was probably the best, was the energy he had with him.
I definitely agree. You can just see that like when you play him too, like on the like through the screen, which I think is super important. And yeah, such a powerful movie. You fall in love with all the characters, and so thank you for helping to bring this to life.
Absolutely, thank you for having me. I'm Jacob, thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe to Young Entertainment.